Hi guys, it's Nick, the ASMR nerd, and welcome to another episode of Relaxing Reviews. Today I have a very special review for you that I'm quite excited about, and I think all of you will be too. And that's because the item I'm reviewing today addresses a very common problem, a problem that probably all of us have encountered at one point or another. Let me set the scene for you. So imagine you've just sat down to a big meal to eat, and you've got all this food spread out in front of you, and you're just going at it with your hands. You're just reaching in, grabbing big handfuls of food, stuffing it in your mouth, as you do, all well and good. But then suddenly, buzz buzz, your pocket buzzes. It's somebody texting you. You gotta go for your smartphone. What are you gonna do? You got food all over your hands. You can try and fumble it out of your pocket, but you're gonna get the gravy on your pants, and you're gonna get the screen all smeary. It's no good. It's a bad scene. And so what I have here today is something to help alleviate that problem. Today I'm reviewing a fork. A fork is a perfect implement for avoiding this messy hands issue at meals. With the fork, you don't have to get your hands dirty. All you have to do is use the fork to do the dirty work, to do the heavy lifting. And the fork takes the food from the table to your mouth, at least in theory. That's how it's supposed to work. So I'm going to be looking at the fork today. I'm going to be checking out the quality of the fork, the aesthetics of the fork, and of course the functionality of the fork. And if at any time through the course of the review you think the fork is something you'd like to purchase for yourself, there is of course a link down in the video description where you can click through and purchase the fork for yourself. So without further ado, let's take a look at the fork. So here we have the eating implement, the fork. Let's take a look at it. So my first impression is that it is satisfyingly weighty. It feels pretty solid, at least initially. The aesthetics of the fork are quite pleasing. There's some nice decoration around this end. As you can see, some sort of filigree or just kind of a border around the decorative end of the fork. Would look like some flowers right there. And it sort of has this broad base that slims down through the middle and then widens again as we reach the business end of the fork. Another couple of flowers on the neck of the fork. And then we get to the functional portion. Well, it's all functional, really. I mean, an important part of the fork, of course, is how one holds the fork. And in this case, well, let's see. Let's see how the fork is balanced, shall we? That's a well-balanced fork. That's where you want to see the balance point, right about there. That's the optimal location so that when you're using the fork, it has a nice balanced feel in the hand and you don't feel like it's pulling you one way or the other. You're not compensating for poor balance of the fork. And what that means is that this is an ergonomically sound fork, which is something I really like to see. Sometimes with lower quality forks from cheaper companies, they sacrifice on the ergonomics, and you pay for it. You pay for it over the years. So, but the serious business end of the fork is up here. We have a 4-pronged design. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 4 prongs is just about right for your average fork user. You can get 3-pronged forks, but many people find that too minimalistic and not as functional. And you can get 5-pronged forks, but those are more specialty forks that you have for specific applications, not for your average meal. So I think the 4 prongs is an excellent choice. It's a standard, classic design, really, that will serve most people quite well, I think. Each of the tines, the prongs, feels a little bit sharp. There's a little bit of point to them, but not so much that you're going to accidentally, lacerate the inside of your mouth with the fork. And they have been intentionally blunted to some degree for that purpose, so as to avoid accidental self-injury. But I still have faith that if you were to plunge these tines into a cut of meat or something like that, they would hold. I think they'd hold well. And the length of these prongs is also just about right. You can see we've got maybe 1.5 inches of length to those prongs. This is obviously a full-size dinner fork. You can, of course, get smaller forks. There's a whole variety of different sizes of forks for your every need. But this is a standard-sized dinner fork. And it needs to do the job for all different kinds of foods, from your chicken breast to your salad to, depending on your preferences. You might have a salad fork for your salad. But your potatoes or whatever. This fork has to do it all. It is a multi-purpose fork. If you look on the back of the fork here, it says, I don't know if you can see that, if it's going to focus properly. There we go. It says on the back here, Onitacraft Deluxe Stainless. So this is evidently their deluxe model, which probably is why we see so much ornamentation. I could see how this might be a bit much for some people in the aesthetic department. Like, not everybody likes so much decoration on their fork. Some people prefer something more minimalistic, something a bit more reserved. But I like having a bit of flashiness to my fork. So as far as eating utensils go, this one seems like a pretty good one. I will say, in addition to the fine balance in the hand, the manufacturer has done their due diligence to smooth off any rough edges. Like, I can draw my finger along the edge here, and I don't feel like I'm gonna slice it open. All the edges have been pleasingly rounded off for this very user-friendly fork design, which is really nice to see. And as I said at the beginning, it is nice and weighty. Stainless steel. It says so on the back here, and nicely thick. I think this fork is going to last for quite a while. Years of good service out of this fork. You can hear. I mean, just listen. You can hear the quality, you know? You can always tell the quality of a good fork from how it sounds. So, from a quality perspective, this eating implement looks very good indeed. From an aesthetic perspective, I am a fan of the way this thing looks, although I can understand it might not be for everyone. And from a functional perspective, it looks like it ought to do pretty darn well. However, there's only one way to know that for sure, and that's to put it to the test. So let's take a look at how the fork performs in practice. Alright, it's time to test this baby out. So to test the fork today, I've got a bit of food that I'm going to eat, and we will see how it performs. And what I've brought along for testing purposes is some cereal, because everybody knows that a fork is the most appropriate utensil for consuming cereal. So let's pour some out here. And what cereal would be complete without milk? This is 3% milk. We don't normally buy 3% milk, but that's all they had at the store. Alright, let's see how this fork performs. Not a good initial showing. Not good at all. Alright, it's a little better. It's a little better. Now, guys, I think there's a serious flaw in this fork's design. You know, like it's getting some of the cereal, but this is kind of garbage. What kind of self-respecting fork isn't able to properly serve up cereal? I am so disappointed. I thought from the way this thing looks, you know, it looks really well made. I had high hopes, but gosh, we'll keep going here for a minute, but it's just an exercise in frustration. I might as well be using my hands, you know? Like, if this is the way I have to eat my Cheerios in the morning, I'm not going to get to work on time. It's going to take me an hour. They're going to be soggy before the fork can get them all to my mouth. That is a problem when the fork does not work as advertised. Like, you know, it works to some degree. You can get the Cheerios on the fork, but man, it's slow. It's frustrating. I think whoever designed this fork needs to have a long, hard think about functionality over aesthetics. Because as great as this fork looks, it's just not cutting it. No. Just maddening. Maddening. Well, guys, I wouldn't lie, or I won't lie, I should say. The performance is pretty disappointing. And I had such high hopes after that initial showing. But, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles on relaxing reviews. And I call it like I see it. So, anyway, it's about time that we gather round and I will summarize the pros and cons of the fork for all of you. Let's go do that. All right, so here we are at the end of the review, and this is the part where I summarize what I really liked about the product and what I may not have liked so much about the product. As is tradition, let's start with the pros. So the first thing I really liked about this fork was its quality materials. I think that it has really solid build quality, and I'm pretty confident that you could use this fork for years and it'll keep on going. The second thing that I really appreciated about the fork was the aesthetics. I thought the aesthetic design was really well done. It's a fork that I would be proud to put on my table to have my guests use. It wasn't understated, it wasn't overstated, had some nice attention to detail. I just thought that overall the fork looked really nice. The third thing that I really appreciated about this fork was the good ergonomics. Holding this fork in the hand feels good. I didn't feel like my wrist was going to get tired after using it repeatedly. I didn't feel like it was poorly balanced in my hand, like I had to always compensate one way or the other to keep the fork in my hand. It just felt really good to hold, and I absolutely appreciate that. Now it's time to talk about what I might not have liked quite so much about this fork. So let's talk about the cons. The first and really Achilles heel of this product is that it's just not very efficient. And you saw that when I was doing the cereal eating test. It was incredibly slow. And not only that, I had to eat like 2 Cheerios at a time. But not only that, there's no way that I would have been able to consume the milk that was left over with the fork. All the holes in the fork, the milk would just go right through. And so I'd have to like pick up the bowl and like drink it out of the bowl, which kind of defeats the purpose of having a utensil in the first place, right? And so I'm not really sure who this fork is for. Despite the fact that it looks nice and it looks well made, I just have a hard time recommending this fork considering the compromised functionality of the product. The second thing that I didn't like so much about this product was the lack of warranty. Again, I'll say it again, it drives me nuts when manufacturers don't include warranty information, because what if my fork breaks? I have no way of sending it back to the manufacturer to get it repaired or to get them to send me a new one. And that's something you run into with these lower cost products occasionally, where you sort of sacrifice that warranty, or if there is a warranty, it's not very well stated or put up front or explicitly stated with the product. So that warranty, it's always marks down when you don't have one. And that'll just about do it for my review of the fork. Overall, I really don't feel I can wholeheartedly recommend this product. It does have some things going for it. It feels good in the hand. It looks nice. It seems to be relatively well made. But the limited functionality of this utensil really rubbed me the wrong way. It's just not practical. And so personally, I think I'm going to be sticking to using my hands the old-fashioned way. No forks for me. But if you would like to purchase a fork of your own, there is of course a link down in the video description where you can click through and find one for yourself. Well guys, I sincerely hope that you enjoyed today's review. I hope you found it informative. I hope you found it relaxing. And I look very forward to having you back here next time on Relaxing Reviews. Happy April Fools, guys. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.